It's important to get our expectations right. AI doing human jobs is not here yet. Maybe for writers and artists, it's alarming, but for the rest of us, we're fine. We just need to stay updated on AI tools and use them to work smarter. Because believe it or not, AI can either make you smarter or dumber based on how you use it. Now, I've tested many AI tools for UI, and I can tell you with certainty, AI cannot create user-friendly UI at all. You still need that human logic to come up with coherent user flows and proper interactions. Because as it stands right now, the AI is not understanding how humans are interacting with these UI elements. With that out of the way, let's talk about Galileo. Now, I've heard about this tool over a year ago in a podcast about startups in Silicon Valley, and it was getting a lot of attention from investors. And I remember thinking that I want to wait and see where this tool goes because it was very promising. But it wasn't quite finished at that time yet. It was still in beta and alpha. Now, earlier this year, they released their first finished product, Galileo 1.0. And I have high hopes for it, especially with the quick AI advancements we're seeing across the whole industry. Plus, the Galileo team has been regularly updating and improving the app. So I think it's time to review this tool. Now, this tool allows you to create custom UIs in a chat interface, which is really cool because it allows you to communicate back and forth with your requirements until you reach your desired UI. So in that sense, it helps you with ideation and brainstorming as well. So you can chat back and forth with it, with your requirements. At some point, it will summarize everything you talked about for you to approve. And once you approve it, it will generate the UI, which is really cool because it makes it seem like you're actually talking to a coworker or a team member. Now, prompting it back and forth is actually free. It only uses credits when it generates a UI, and it uses 10 credits every time it generates a screen. And when you sign up, they give you 150 credits for free, so you get 15 generations for free when you sign up. It's like using ChatGPT with the capability of creating UI. It's nice to have it in one place where you are ideating and brainstorming and then coming up with requirements and then have the same tool generate the UI for you. I really like that aspect of it. Now, this is the interface you get when you log in. You start in the Explore tab where you can see what other people have created. Let's go into the Text to UI tab right here. First of all, you have some examples right here from the tool itself showing you what can be done and how to achieve what you're looking for. Now, for the first try, I tried to go for a fitness app to see what it gives me. So I gave it some requirements here. I need an app to connect trainers with trainees. I need a list of trainers with their specialties and ratings and add section for free programs. And this is what it gave me. So it gave me two options here. And right off the bat here, you notice that the design is very generic and doesn't have anything special to it. It's just very common components put together, but the content is customized towards my product here. So I'm looking for a fitness app and it's giving me appropriate text and images in the design right here. Now, the cool thing is that you can actually copy your design to Figma and it works seamlessly. You just copy it from here, paste it in Figma, and it works very well. It even gives you auto layout on everything, and the structure of the design is actually proper for Figma. It's not just dropping elements in there. So that's really cool. And the other thing you can do here is copy the code for it. So the code it gives you here is actually HTML and with Tailwind CSS inline. I'm not a developer, so I don't know how useful this code is. But please, if you're a developer, let me know in the comments if this is actually useful code, or at least if it reduces your effort and time as a starting point. And it says here you can either copy the code or export to Replit, which is another AI tool for developers. Now, I wasn't very happy with the outcome here because it's just giving me a generic design and I wanted to challenge it with something that is not very typical. So I decided to ask for a home automation app, which presents a lot of opportunity to get creative with the UI. So here's my conversation with it. I started by giving it a simple requirement of multiple controls for lights and multiple rooms, and add new device button, create automation button, and settings. And I asked for modern design with gradients. So here's the outcome. It gave me two options here. Now what I can do here is click edit on either of those to reference in your prompt. So it will add this image to your prompt and then you can prompt further. You can notice that it didn't adhere to my styling requirements. And I noticed that as I move along here, as I talk to it more and more, it's not responding to my style prompt. So that's an issue for me because I don't want something very generic. The only control for styling that it gives you here is the edit theme button right there. And that will give you control over light or dark theme and what color do you want and the corner radius and the font, which is fine. It's minimalistic, but for a home automation app, I wanted something more immersive and more easy to use. So I said, make the light controls look like widgets, and you can click on the whole element with dimming options and more settings option for each light. And I said, remove the create automation button and add a tab for automations. And here's the result that I got. It did give me another tab for automations, but it didn't really understand what I was saying when I said widget and you can click on the whole element. It's still giving me a button for settings and a slider for the brightness. It understood that dimming means brightness. So in terms of language, it does understand, but in terms of capability, it doesn't really have that capability of creating something unconventional. But it did actually give me that dimming control for each light. And then next I said, separate each light by adding a slightly different background color, add hue control, and replace the settings button with 3 dots icon. So I asked for 3 things here. I need styling the background, I need another slider for hue, and this settings button, I need it to be just 3 dots icon. And this is what I got. So again, it didn't adhere to my styling prompt where I asked for a background color, or at least separating each by a slightly different background color, because in my previous design here, it was confusing which slider is for which item. For some reason, it added images for me for each one here, and that's not what I asked for. And it didn't give me the 3 dots icon either. And it removed some elements here, because I had the brightness slider here, and I asked for a hue slider as well. It just didn't give me neither of those at this time. So at that point, I went back and said, make it a grid of 2 items horizontally and add sections for different rooms with multiple lights in each room. Again, it did not understand that I want a grid. It just keeps giving me these card style items with only 1 item per line. It did understand that I need different sections for each room and multiple lights in each room. So that's cool, but it's not understanding my styling requests and my layout requests. I don't know what it is. It's just not within its capability to create something out of this default layout that it has. So it gave me a long page here for each room and 2 lights in each room. So now I said, replace the image with a big slider controls for brightness and hue. Add visual separation for each section. So I didn't want the pictures. I wanted big sliders for hue and brightness and a separation for each section. And this is what I got. This is the worst thing that I've seen so far. It's just giving me brightness, hue, and then kitchen, brightness, hue, brightness, hue. This is a clear example of how AI doesn't understand how humans interact with UI elements. What is this brightness for? Why do I have 2 brightnesses here? This is completely useless. So I said, replace the images. I'm insisting here that I want something a little bit unconventional, and it's not giving it to me. I said, replace the images with a touch area to control the brightness vertically and the hue horizontally. I'm pretty sure you understand what I'm asking for, right? But the AI does not. It's probably understanding what I mean, but it's not within its capability to design something like that. And it's not being honest about that. If it were to tell me that I cannot do that at the moment, maybe in future updates I will have that capability, I would give it a pass. But it's just completely ignoring the things that it cannot do. Again, it didn't give me anything that I asked for. It just gave me the previous design. I said, add a button for each light to turn on and off with an indication if the light is currently on or off. And that it understood. Now it gave me turn on or off buttons on the side here, and it says currently on or currently off on each item. Fine, that's fine. But I need it to be visually more indicative. So I said display a green icon if the light is currently on and red if the light is off. And it did not understand that. It's just refusing to follow any visual prompt from me. It's just taking selective elements from my prompt based on content, but not styling or anything visual. So it turned the power switch to a toggle here, which is nice, but it removed the indication of the light on or off. So it didn't give me any colors for indication here. Again, it's also interesting how sometimes when there's an error or something, it says our AI is napping. I mean, that's just funny. Now I asked it to create a desktop layout for this page, and apparently you cannot do that within the same conversation. You're gonna have to start a new conversation for desktop layout, which is a little bit unfortunate because if I had a long conversation here to reach my desired layout and my desired UI, I don't want to just create that all over again for desktop. I would love it if I could take the same elements that I have here and have it create a desktop layout for it. That would be a very useful feature. So then I'd asked it, what other features do I need in a home automation app? And it gave me a very detailed and fleshed out response. So when I asked it to implement those in the design, it gave me a breakdown of all the screens that I would be creating. And it also mentioned that it can only design 6 screens at a time. It's asking me which ones do I want to proceed with. So I said proceed with the scene management screen and energy monitoring screen. And it gave me those screens. Again, very generic design. Yeah, it's cool. So I created a new conversation here to create a UI for it for desktop. I gave it some of the requirements that I had before. It said, it seems you're looking for a web interface that will manage home automation with the following features. Can you confirm this is correct? I said yes, proceed, and this is what it gave me. I mean, yeah, that's bad. Again, the AI does not understand how people are going to be using this, but if you just think about it with a little bit of logic here, you realize that the indication cannot be like that, because if one is on and one is off, what is it gonna say here? Isn't it better to just indicate on each light if it's on or off? Here it's telling me they're all off. You have one controller for brightness and hue. Does that control all of the lights or what? So yeah, as you can see, there's a lot of issues with usability here. Now I wanted to test the image to UI feature that they have here. So everything we've done so far is text to UI, and if you go into image to UI, it will allow you to upload an image. And it actually has some examples at the beginning here. So you can see that you can just upload a rough wireframe, sketched even, and it will create that UI for you. And here's another example where they uploaded an image of a website and it created it here, which is really cool because you can copy this to Figma. So if you like some design, you can actually get Galileo to create all of the elements for you in a very usable way and then take them, copy them to Figma. So it's a really cool feature. I like this one, but I didn't find it helpful when I tried to sketch out a website to create, because again, it's very limited in terms of the elements and the styles. It does not actually want to create anything out of the box or anything unconventional. So here's the image that I uploaded. I just drew quickly a title, and then I have these panels here, or cards, where each one has a name, a power button, and 2 sliders. And I have 3 wide and 2 sections here. So it's a very simple sketch, and this is the result that I got. It's not accepting my request for these panels where you have controls inside of them. Again, I said each device should be a card element with controls inside of it. It gave me a card element with a title inside of it, but the controls are outside, and it's not even close to what I had in the sketch. Yeah, here are the limitations of Galileo. Now the good news is we're definitely moving in the right direction here. I think with more training and more capability to be more creative, this tool can be really, really good, but in its current form, I just don't see myself using it because it's actually not understanding the underlying intentions of my requirements and how the user is going to actually interact with these elements. It's not creating design patterns from the user's perspective. It's just putting components together based on selected keywords that it finds in your prompt. Although it does understand in a natural language, it does not design based on that underlying requirement. That to us humans, it's very logical and natural, but to the machine, it's not that easy, I guess. There are 2 things that I would actually like to see in this tool. One is the ability to lock in some elements within the UI so that your next prompt doesn't change any of the elements that you actually like, and that would be really helpful. So say for example you like the input field that you have at the top here, you can say lock this element for me, so everything you prompt after that, this element will for sure be there because you like it. That's one feature that I would like to see there. And the other feature would be the ability to actually convert a mobile layout into a desktop layout without starting a new conversation. Now, what I like about this is it gives you actually usable design that you can use in Figma. So that's a really, really good point, because other AI tools that are trying to create UI out there that I've tested before on this channel, they will not let you go back to Figma. So this is really, really cool. Plus the code that it gives you. Please let me know if it's useful, but that's also a plus feature. Yeah, these are the things I like. I really like that you can actually talk back and forth about your requirements and actually like brainstorm and ideate with it. That's really cool. I really see a lot of potential for this. But for me personally, in its current form, I cannot actually incorporate this in my workflow. In fact, if I wanted to use this as a starting point for my design, I would actually go to the community assets that they have in Figma. You can find much more useful assets and elements and the designs in the community in Figma rather than everything looking the same here. Let me show you. For me personally, if I wanted to use this tool to come up with a starting design for the automation app, it wasn't very helpful. But if I go to the community in Figma, and I search for home automation. Right off the bat, I get exactly the elements that I was looking for because these are designed by people. There actually is some good designs here. Like the first result here is exactly what I was looking for. I wanted a panel with controls inside of it and a big slider. I wasn't getting that big slider anywhere. The Figma community is a much better starting point for me in design than actually generating a UI that is not getting exactly what I want. Look at this design here. This is what I was looking for. Panels, and I wanted a grid, and it wasn't giving me a grid. I wanted a big slider like this. It wasn't giving it to me. So you cannot get Galileo to design things like this for you. It will only do the most used style of lists and tables and calendars and input fields. But yeah, you cannot get creative with Galileo, I guess. So if you're a designer and you're looking for a good starting point for your project, I think you're better off with the Figma community templates and assets. But if you're trying to brainstorm or come up with an idea, then Galileo will give you what ChatGPT will give you with the conversational and brainstorming style, but it will actually also give you some UI suggestions that you can use for wireframes, maybe, but nothing more than that. If you want actual UI, you're better off going to the community templates. But if you're actually a small business or a startup and you don't want to spend the money to hire a UI designer, then you can actually get at least an MVP design out of this tool. But you're going to have to actually work very closely with your developer because this tool is not giving you everything you need in terms of all of the scenarios that the user is going to go through. That will give a very hard time to the developer unless you tell them exactly what you want. Because in that case, the developer would have to make a lot of decisions that the designer should have done. So if you have a startup or a very, very early stage app, you can actually use this as a proof of concept. But yeah, keep your developer in mind and help them make those decisions that the designer should be doing. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments if there's any topics you'd like to hear about or any AI tools that you'd like me to test. And I'll see you in the next video.